Story 1. My Father, Pete. My father was a tough-minded, no-frills kind of man who led a Spartan life in a small house on the New Jersey coast, never spending an unnecessary penny. A coal miner's son from eastern Pennsylvania, one of 8 children. He was the product of the Great Depression. He was kind and generous to everyone but himself. I might have known that he could make it back from anywhere, even death. In early October 1992, my sister called at my home in Indiana with the news that Dad had had a massive heart attack. She found him in his home in great pain. After much pleading with her, he went to the hospital. I flew in that evening and was able to see him in the intensive care ward in the morning. I told him that when he came out of the hospital, he would come home with me to Indiana to recover. He looked at me and said, "I'm not going to make it out of here alive. I can feel it coming." He laughed and said, "We'll be together soon enough. Life is short. I'll be waiting for you when you pass over, and I'll be watching you in the meantime." 2 days later, my dad died. My sister wanted me to stay with her, but I needed to be alone with my grief, so I stayed in my dad's home the night he died. It was a small home in a subdivision where only retirees live. The house was full of my dad's unique personality. A little desk nameplate from his office, jokingly given by his friends, that said, "Cheap Pete." A wedding portrait of my grandparents in a gilded oval frame. Food still in the refrigerator. Pictures of all of us that he loved. The TV guide open to the listings of the night he had his heart attack. I couldn't shake the feeling of his presence, but I told myself it was just my imagination, my grief. I missed him so much. Sick with grief, I sat up and watched a movie. Then I tried to read. Around 3 a.m., I was overcome with exhaustion. I shut off all the lights, and I laid down in Dad's bed and began to pray in the dark for his soul. Suddenly, I heard a click, and light flooded into the room from the hall. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I jumped out of bed to confront an intruder that I knew must be in the house with me. I grabbed the cordless phone as a weapon and stepped into the hall, and I felt my father's presence powerfully, and I felt sadness. I could feel very tangibly that he was sorry for me, and I knew that there was no one in the house but us. I checked the locks on the doors anyway, and they were, of course, secure. The light in the bathroom had come on. The switch was an older type, which had a positive click. I just shut it off a few minutes before. I said aloud, "I love you, Dad. Thanks for the message." I still feel him sometimes, when I least expect it to. He was there recently when I took a picture of my son. About a year ago, I dreamed of him, and later learned that my brother had almost an identical dream that same night. I believe that he's keeping his word, as he always did. I feel him most strongly, occasionally as I'm dozing off to sleep. At those times, it's as though he is sitting right beside me. I learned many things from my father. The last thing he taught me was that there is a bond, the glue of which is love, and that it transcends death, and death is nothing to fear at all. Story 2. Small Creatures. When I was around 8, I woke up one night, and I had to go to the bathroom. When I came back, I got in bed and pulled the covers up to my chin. We had a hallway light that was left on all night, so we could find our way to the bathroom at the end of the hall. As I lay there, about 1 minute, I saw a shadow coming down the hall, and I thought, "Oh, I must have woke Mom up, and she's coming to see what I'm doing." I was shocked to see a little man, no more than 3 feet tall. He stopped and turned into my doorway. He just stood there. I couldn't see his face, because once you step into my doorway, the hall light doesn't shine on you anymore. I couldn't tell what he was wearing, other than that he had a hat on that looked kind of like the hats you see in paintings of pilgrims, and that he had a long, bushy beard. I sat there and was so scared I couldn't move, and then he walked towards me to the end of my bed, and, I almost pooped my pants. The only thing I could think to do was lay there and pull the covers up over my head. He blocked my only exit out of the room. I lay there under the covers, waiting for him to just grab me. I must have laid there for about 5 minutes, but it seemed like eternity. Finally, I got the courage to slowly pull the cover down, to peek out into the room. I couldn't see him anywhere, so I made my move. I jumped off the end of the bed in one leap and flew into my mom and dad's room. I woke Mom up and told her what I saw, and she said I was just dreaming and to go back to bed. I went and turned on every light in that house and looked around, looked all over the place. I didn't go to sleep until the sun came up, and I'm positive that I did not dream it. Years have passed. I'm 40 years old now, and I'm still a little afraid of the dark because what I saw that night. I've only ever told 2 people in my life, my mom that night and my current wife, but I swear I saw it. Story 3. I See You Ghosts. We had this young girl. She was about 10 years old. She was severely injured in a car accident. She didn't die in our ICU. She was moved to another facility and passed away there after a few weeks. We've had numerous people that we've moved into that room afterwards, usually older males, that if they're even mildly sedated, will claim they've seen a young girl that matches her description, ribbons in her hair, about 10 years old, who's sitting at the foot of their beds, staring at them. One guy said that she asked him how he was doing, and then got up and walked that way. He was pointing to the second floor window. He paused when he noticed where he was pointing, and got this wide-eyed look on his face, and said, "I guess she couldn't have left the room that way, huh?" as he realized that it was a window there. Personally, I think she's taking care of the grandfatherly figures that come onto our ward. We also had this room that got shut down and eventually remodeled into a new entrance into our floor because after a certain patient died there, he was a convicted murderer who came in from one of the prisons. None of the nurses would put patients in that room after that. They all said that the energy in the room was too spooky and too dark, that the air in the room was heavy. Although I don't think anybody actually saw a ghost in that room, but the energy in the air was just too much for them to handle. They'd triage a patient out before they'd put a patient in that bed. When you work in hospitals, sometimes you get frequent patients. You see the same people numerous times, especially when their time is coming to an end. We had one frequent patient who we saw often. I worked a 7P to 7A shift, and he died at 8 p.m. The look on his face that night was like, how could you let me die? Like it was our fault. We were trying everything we could to keep him alive. The family came, and they were gone by 9 p.m. The funeral home came and left with his body at 9:30. At about 10 p.m., the call light starts going off. It starts going off every 5 minutes. We hadn't put anybody else in his room. One of the nurses was a very spiritual woman, and at about 2 a.m., after 4 hours of this, she snaps. "Enough," she says, and gets up from the desk. She walks into the room, and she practically screams, "Sir, you have died. You can't be here anymore. Move along. In the name of Jesus, I am exorcising you from this plane of existence. Go into the light and be happy." And I kid you not, the call button stopped going off then and there, and we had a peaceful rest of the shift. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for listening.